Right, here we are, Monday, August 26th. I'm Tom Novak. Thank you for joining me. We're going to be talking about the severe weather setup now for, well, actually starting now this afternoon and then continuing through this evening and actually bleeding into tomorrow morning and then even perhaps into the afternoon. We'll see how that evolves, but no doubt over the next at least 24 hours here, we need to keep an eye to the sky. So let's get right to it. And of course, we have sponsors for these videos and posts that we make on Facebook and Twitter, or X, what they call it now. And today's sponsor is Next Gen Heating and Air. And you talk about a great sponsor for today with dew points in the upper 70s and lower 80s and heat indexes and above 100 degrees. Yeah, Next Gen Heating and Air is perfect for this sponsorship. Of course, they're in the HVAC or heating and cooling industry, and I'm sure everybody's using their ACs today, as they probably will be tomorrow too. So if you're having problems or you need something new in the HVAC area with your house or business, give Next Gen Heating and Air a call. They will take care of you. All right, let's get right to it. By the way, thank you, Next Gen. Let's get right to it. This is the moisture channel we call the water vapor loop from outer space, and I want you to focus on what's happening up here in the Dakotas and western Minnesota. That's some moisture now that is developing thunderstorms, and you can see kind of a feed of moisture in the mid and upper levels of our atmosphere from the central plains on north into the upper Midwest. We have a capped environment down here across southern Minnesota, Iowa, and on south, but yes, you can also see with the water vapor imagery, which is important, is a disturbance, a little spin out here in Wyoming and Montana. That's an upper level disturbance that shoots energy east and northeast towards Minnesota. And that's what's happening this afternoon, hence the reason why we're already getting some activity up here in western Minnesota, west central Minnesota. You can also see that here on the satellite imagery. We call this infrared imagery from outer space, measuring the temperature of the cloud tops. And look at this. Look at how these tops are cooling rapidly over west central Minnesota. That's a severe thunderstorm that has developed up there. So this severe weather event, which could be widespread by this evening, is already going across west central Minnesota. And this is a juicy environment down here over about the southern half of Minnesota into Wisconsin, and it's ripe for severe weather, outbreak over southern Minnesota. There's visible satellite imagery also showing those storms blowing up over west central Minnesota. Actually, a real nice view of those storms over, well, just near or east of the Alexandria area. We'll show you that here on radar in just a second. And again, we're looking at this real moist environment here over southern Minnesota with dew points around 80 for many of us in southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Lots of cumulus clouds right now developing in that moist atmosphere. And my gut feeling is that more initiation or storm initiation is going to occur near or just west and north of the Twin Cities metro here over the next 6 hours. And we'll see how that develops. Looking at radar, there are those storms near, well, in between Fergus and Alex along I-94. Of course, here's I-94 right here going towards the Fargo-Moorhead area. And that's where the storms are right now. We can zero in on them here up in west central Minnesota. Long ways away yet from the Twin Cities metro and much of southern Minnesota. But this would be the area right here that we need to watch over the next 6 hours as more storm initiation takes place. They could be supercells. And that's the reason why we're worried about severe weather. In fact, check it out. I've sent this to you, yesterday, and I'm worried about severe weather across southern Minnesota, at least the southern 2/3 probably of the state. You go from Brainerd and Alex on south to the Minnesota-Iowa border. These are the areas that really need to keep an eye to the sky here over the next 24 hours as some turning winds as you go up in the atmosphere is occurring over our region, and a pretty strong warm front. I'll show you this, the demarcation of this warm front on model guidance, but it's a strong warm front that's trying to penetrate north, but it's running into some dry air, and that's a perfect recipe actually for thunderstorm development right up in this area over the next 6 hours. And it's going to produce some severe weather the way it appears, and the Storm Prediction Center actually agrees with that too. Now, I'd mentioned to you that warm front trying to move north into some dry air. You can see it here. These are dew points from model guidance, and this is for early this afternoon now. And look at these dew points. They're in the 50s. So it's really comfortable up in North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota. But then contrast that with the dew points near or even in excess of 80 degrees. We have what's called corn sweat that's actually adding moisture to the environment here in southern Minnesota and Iowa and western Wisconsin. So that boosts the dew points up a few more degrees than what they normally would be, but still, it doesn't matter. This is a highly volatile environment that has a lot of energy and moisture to it here over southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. And you can clearly see the demarcation of a front, which is located right from about Aberdeen, South Dakota, northeast through Alex, and then continuing northeast towards the arrowhead of Minnesota. This front is going to waver back north and south, but it'll probably move south as we go through this evening and overnight, and hence it's going to run into this deep moisture here over southern Minnesota, and that would be a good recipe for severe thunderstorm development. Now, when we look at CAPE or energy in the atmosphere, you can see the same thing. Here's that front located over central Minnesota and into northern Minnesota. And look at the intense volatile atmosphere here over southern Minnesota with energy values that are through the roof this afternoon and into this evening. And when we put this into motion, you can see how this energy starts to sag south a little bit. That front tries to sag south. As it does, it develops thunderstorms. But that energy is still there over southern Minnesota, even as we get into tomorrow morning. This is your timestamp here. This is right around 3-4 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can see still plenty of energy over southeastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. So it's going to be a long 12 to 24 hours here over southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin as this front presses to the south and east into this volatile environment. And it's going to produce big time thunderstorms the way it appears, and could be a mesoconvective system that runs through southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin as we go through the overnight hours. Here comes your future satellite loop from the Rapid Refresh guidance, and it's doing a nice job of forming the thunderstorms near Alexandria here this afternoon. But keep an eye. I want you to keep an eye on this area here as I put this into motion, and look at how it explodes storms near or just north and west of the Twin Cities metro as we get into the early this evening, with more storm development as we head southwest into eastern South Dakota. And those storms just continue to explode and actually train on top of each other. So that's the reason why I'm worried about some heavy rains and maybe even some flooding rains over portions of southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin, because these storms, you can clearly see it here, these storms continue to develop throughout the overnight and into the early morning hours tomorrow. So yes, long 12 to 24 hours is in place here, or is going to occur here over southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. The Rapid Refresh guidance is also showing that rain. This is through about sunrise tomorrow morning. And look at this, inch to 2 inches of rain and locally heavier amounts across a good chunk of southern, central Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin. And yes, that is the reason why I put this out earlier today, but that's the reason why I'm worried about some flooding rains here, at least localized flooding rains over southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin, as that front, or as we are near that front that's located over central Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin. All right, we'll continue to keep an eye on this situation here as we go through the afternoon, evening, and overnight hours. We'll likely hold a live update, a live briefing this evening. As long as thunderstorms get rolling this evening, we'll probably do that for you and have some fun this evening. All right, thanks for joining me, everyone. Thank you, NextGen, for sponsoring this update. Take care, everyone, and be prepared.